All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Here I am, obviously flying solo this week because we've had so many great guests on that I actually ran out of guests for a while. I got some new ones coming on, and it's going to be super exciting. Trust me, it's going to be really, really great. I thank you for tuning in. This is a super fun podcast to do. I love doing it. I love the responses I get. The podcast is just climbing the charts. I think that's fantastic. I'm super proud of that. And I'm super appreciative of you guys for tuning in and actually making this podcast so successful, because without you, it's just me sitting behind a microphone talking about dogs. And that's not that much fun. So anyway, if you haven't signed up for my membership section, lots of great stuff up there, robertcabral.com. We redid the whole site. Tons of great dog training lessons for you. There is a lot of free stuff also on YouTube that you should check out. Facebook. Follow me everywhere. I'm everywhere. Follow me on Twitter. You get little daily, little tidbits, little morsels of stuff. And if you follow me on Facebook, you get more. And obviously YouTube, you get the most. So share this podcast. Tell your friends about it. Today I want to talk about something really, really important. One of the most common questions that I get asked, or the most common theme of questions that I get asked are generally about puppies. People get overwhelmed with puppies. The puppies are biting, the puppies going in the house, puppies doing this, doing that. There's always a host of issues about puppies. So I'll do more podcasts on puppies. I've already done quite a few, but I like to hammer this into the ground because it's so important. Whatever you do with your puppy is what's going to become your dog. In other words, when you get a puppy, you get a blank slate. You're getting a creature that is innocent, that's that is unlearned, unknowing of anything. Hopefully some basic imprint has been done on the puppy by the breeder or by the person who raised the puppy, even if it's just the puppy's mom. And it's all going to reflect back. The more this is enforced and done, it's going to reflect back when the dog gets older. That's when you really start to see how great the puppy was raised, is when the puppy gets older. Like Goofy's 10 years old now. He's a great dog. Maya's 9 years old, and she had a lot of issues, right? She was shipped around and sold a bunch of times before I got her. And it took me quite a while to get her to that level. And she still has some issues that you can't work through. But that being said, the puppies, the way you raise your puppies is the way your dog's going to turn out. So it's a huge responsibility. I don't think people take it serious enough. And that's where I want to kind of get into. I want to delve really into this. So when you go, people are picking puppies, and let's kind of get away from this whole idea of, rescue and breeders and stuff like that, and not calling out anybody on it. Because if you want to get a dog from a breeder, get a dog from a breeder. But I'm going to tell you, to make sure it's a good breeder, we're going to get into that also. But I want to focus on the importance of what we do with our puppy. Because once a puppy has bad experiences, bad socialization or no socialization, and has all these other dooming things in their basic upbringing, that's going to be the dog. And it's very hard to break those habits on dogs. That's why a lot of times when you see dogs that are dangerous, that are aggressive, that are fearful, that are shut down, that are dog aggressive, that all these other things, so much of that stems back to the puppy, right? It stems back to how that dog was raised as a puppy. So I want to talk about that. When you pick a puppy, you want to get a puppy that is well reared. In other words, one that's well reared by its mom, by the dam, by the female, by the mother. I'm not necessarily talking as much about the human mom as the dog mom. The dog mom will be there for this dog to learn skills and learn behaviors and learn manners and all those things. And it's critical because that's happening from day one, right? From the very, very minute that puppy pops its head out of the mom's womb, this dog is learning lessons. And moms don't, dog moms don't teach them as gently and lovingly and kindly as a human mom, because we're afraid we're going to hurt the puppy. Just like, a guy like me handling a baby, it's like, wow, I don't want to hurt it. It's really crazy. I freak out when somebody hands me a baby. I'm like, what do you do with this thing? Like, what if it falls, or what if it, like, what if the arms comes off? Like, I had that nightmare because my G.I. Joe doll, one of the arms came off. So I get freaked out about stuff like that. Dog moms don't care, right? They pick up the puppy in their mouth and you'll see they'll lick them and they'll push them aside and the puppies don't get hurt. So that's really, really important. So you want to make sure that the puppy has a mom, that the puppy was raised by a mom and doesn't have these, a lot of, I'm going to get into this, where puppies that are abandoned by the mom, or the mom dies at childbirth, or they're singletons, which is one puppy, is, I'm going to write myself a note here because I want to talk, so many things to cover here. Puppies. Dogs that are raised by humans, like from day one, and I've had friends who've done this, is a disaster, right? For the most part, those dogs never get the structure that they really should get. Unless it's somebody who can really figure that out, who can really do that. A dog that has not been raised by a dog with other puppies is a tough one. It's usually not going to turn out to be a good dog because, and again, I'm calling a spade on this one. People are going to say, "Oh, well, you're saying you're biased." I'm not biased at all. I'm just telling you, the best shot a puppy's got is to be raised by a dog with other litter mates. That's it. That's going to be your best bet. So when somebody says, "Oh, the puppy lost, all the puppies died and the mom died, and I raised this puppy by hand," chances are is going to be serious behavioral issues because it wasn't imprinted with the right skills of how to be a dog among other dogs. It's like if like the old stories of a human who was raised by apes, like Tarzan. Perfect. My favorite fairy tale of all was Tarzan. I wanted to be Tarzan, but Tarzan, in essence, was raised by apes, so he didn't know how to act like a human, right? So when he got to the America or England, or I don't know where he went, I just know I used to watch it. His behavior was off. So the dog's behavior, unless it was raised by a puppy, is the puppy's behavior, as long as it wasn't raised by a dog, is going to be off. He's not going to know how to be a dog. He's not going to understand those skills. And it's really, really, really hard to teach it. So that also happens when dogs are singletons, which means there's only one dog. Like all the puppies either died or there was only one puppy born, which is usually when all the other puppies died some way. Those dogs have also severe behavioral issues because they never learned to share. They never learned manners from the other puppies, and puppies learn manners from other puppies, the other puppies in the litters, and they also learn manners from the mom. So those are super important skills that you really can't teach a puppy, right? It's not that you're a bad person for trying to do this with a puppy, but you can't do it. You're not a dog, and you can't give the dog that kind of interaction. So that makes it really, really hard. You want to look at this. So singletons, it's a tough one. It's always going to be a tough one. Always going to have problems with other dogs. And we're going to have problems with basic behaviors because they don't understand how to act among other dogs. So when you pick a puppy, you want to be really, really careful on that. You want to get a puppy that was one. If you're getting it from a breeder, don't go off Craigslist, don't go off the internet. And people say, "Oh, I got a great dog off Craigslist." Fantastic. I think that's really, really good. And I know people who probably found a great dog in the trash. It's not, I'm just giving you what your best odds are. If you're going to get it from a breeder, I think it's fantastic. Do your research, get a good breeder, find a breed of dog you like, and check to see if there's a dog club, check the AKC site. Just because they have an AKC title, if they have an AKC paperwork, doesn't make them a good dog. Because a lot of breeders can get an AKC certificate on the dog, or a breed certificate on the dog. Doesn't mean it's a good dog. Search through, find out breed clubs. For example, if you're looking for a Labrador, find a Labrador Retriever Club. The Labrador Retriever Club will have references to breeders, and then do your research from there. Because they might still not be good, but you're kind of hedging your bets on this. So if you're getting it from a rescue, ask how the dog was raised, how the dog was socialized. You want to know all these early things. How many dogs were in a litter? Maybe if you get a health history or something from the dog, from the mom. That's super important. If you're buying from a breeder, you should go back a couple of generations, and you should know, was this dog a champion? Was this dog have certified hips and elbows and eyes and heart and all these different things? It's not saying your dog's not going to get sick. It's just kind of hedging your bets that you're getting the dog from somebody who did their homework before they started breeding this dog. That's really, really important. And you have to kind of consider what breed is right for you, right? So I hear people all the time, oh, I've always wanted a Mastiff, or I've always wanted a Great Dane, right? And I'll get that call. And then I say, well, but what do you know about the breed, right? What do you know about the breed before you get it? I mean, just because they look pretty or they're a color you like, or a friend of yours has one, what do you know? What's the temperament of this dog? What's the life expectancy of the dog? What are the health issues with this dog? How easy is it going to be for you to handle this dog? As puppies, they're all easy, right? 8 months, 8 weeks old, 3 months old, 6 months old, they're easy. Then you start getting into that 9-month window, and then people say, oh, you know, my Tibetan Mastiff has some severe aggression problems to my gardener. Well, you're not going to solve it, right? Because you don't have the capability to solve it. And, you know, I said before that a lot of times women get dogs that they shouldn't get. And I got a lot of shit for that, right? But I'm going to tell you, a lot of people get dogs they shouldn't get, right? So if you're an older dude, and I'm an older dude, but if you're an older dude who's like not as strong or as able-bodied, or you don't have the time or the experience or the physical ability to handle a big dog, don't get a big dog, right? Do yourself a favor. Get yourself, you know, just a mellow dog. Go to the shelter and get yourself, you know, some 35-pound mutt, or get yourself, you know, a small poodle or something that's going to be easier for you to live with, because you want to give the dog the best life possible. And at a puppy, it's deceiving, because you can get a Malinois puppy, a Mastiff puppy, a Pit Bull puppy, a Labrador puppy, and they're all puppies and they're all cute. But they grow into be dogs. And a lot of those behaviors are hardwired into the dog. And if you don't get a handle on it early on, and you don't understand what's about to come, you're getting in over your head. And when you get in over your head, you're going to end up not giving the dog the life the dog really needs, or you're going to have to get rid of the dog. Both are really a travesty for you and the dog. So think about that before you get in. Like I said, if you want to think about between a breeder or a rescue, who cares? I don't really care. If you're going to do a sport with a dog, or you're looking for a specific, you know, exact thing for a dog, probably easier to go to a breeder. If you don't care, you just want to rescue a dog, go to the shelter, right? Or go to a rescue organization and get a dog like that. You'll have a great time no matter what. The question arises oftentimes, what age should I get the puppy, right? Should I get the puppy at 6 weeks, or at 9 weeks, or at 12 weeks, or at 4 weeks, or whatever? And the ideal age to get the puppy is going to be 8 weeks. That's when you get the dog. And the first question is, when should I start training my 8-week-old puppy? And it's day one. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But you want to get this dog at about 8 weeks old, because at that time, it's passed, it's gotten its first vaccinations, it's gotten some socialization. Hopefully the breeder took the dog out at about 5 weeks and started having kids handling the dog, started having the dog on different textures, started hand feeding the dog, started handling the dog, touching the dog, getting the dog into different environments and sounds and stimuli, so the dog doesn't have to depend on being startled by those things later on. Because that's what happens. Once it gets later for the dog, the later it gets for dogs to experience things. That's why people say, oh, my dog is racist, he hates black people. Well, your dog may have never seen a black guy or a black woman, or may have never seen an Indian person or an Asian person, or whatever. And dogs are very specific. So if I teach a dog to sit all the time on grass, and then suddenly I ask it to sit on a really polished marble floor, it's not going to be able to do it. So if the dog is exposed to things, like my dogs have always met all my friends. I've got friends of different colors, different ethnicities, different of sexual preferences, different smells, different heights, tall people, short people, men, women, children, everything. So my dog doesn't have a problem with that, right? My dog is not afraid of anybody. He's not racist to anybody, because he's experienced things in a really positive light. That's something that's important for the puppy to have. So when you get a puppy at 8 weeks, you want them to experience a lot of these things, have a lot of different people come over. If you have, men, women, big people, tall people, Hispanic people, black people, Indian people, children, all these different things, different types of people, these different type of experiences will make the dog a better dog because it's experienced these things in a positive way. And everything, all the introductions are short, all the introductions are fun, and all the introductions are very, very positive. So getting a dog too young is not that great. Some people like to get the dog at 7 weeks or so because they don't want the dog really falling into these pack things where the dog is really connected to the other dogs, or the mom or the breeder or anything like that. So they want the dog sooner. Other people will wait 9, 10 weeks. I don't like to wait that long, usually. I like to get the dog right around 8 weeks old or even just shortly before. But waiting too long really gets the dog hardwired into being with the breeder or the other dogs and gets them really used to that kind of a life. That 8-week window is kind of like the magical window when the dogs really do well in separating out. Also, breeders will generally tend to separate the puppies out at a few weeks before that. They'll start having them apart from the mother, apart from the other litter mates, and that makes the dog more able to be away from the other dogs without kind of freaking out about everything. You don't want the dog kind of suddenly it's the 8th week and that day, and you're coming to get the dog, and boom, they rip the dog away from the other puppies, and it's hard. That's a harder thing. So doing some kind of a gradual desensitization, getting the dog away from the other puppies is a really good thing. It teaches the dog that it's got to be mature and it's got to be with somebody else and it's got to learn to be on its own and all those things. And it's an easy transition when it's done properly. That being said, I repeat, do not get litter mates. Just don't do it. People always come to me and they say, oh, the breeder said these two are really attached to each other, or these two are really good friends. And I don't care if they're litter mates, brother and sister, or if they're litter mates in the sense that there was 2 litters born kind of close together and you're getting 2 dogs the same age. Just don't do it. It's a complete disaster. It doesn't work out. The dogs overly bond with each other. And at some point, you're going to have problems with dogs that have incredible separation anxiety, or they form really bad behaviors of being together and not letting anybody else in there. They don't want to bond. They become what we call doggy. And doggy dogs don't do well with humans. In other words, they don't want to train, they don't want to play, they don't want to bond with the people. And you're getting a dog to bond with you. If you get 2 litter mates and you're going to put them out in the field and they're going to protect your livestock or something like that, it might be good. I don't know. I've never done that. But I would say that if you're getting a pet or a dog to train, don't get litter mates. And that's, whenever I hear somebody saying, oh, the breeder said this, that's a really crappy breeder. It's a really terrible thing to do to people. And I don't say to do it. So remember, right around that 8-week window, whether 7.5 weeks or 8.5 weeks or 9 weeks, that's when you want to get your puppy. So I always talk about the early socialization of the dog. And one of the most critical key things for the dog to be socialized on is children. And that means children. When I say children, I don't mean like 9, 10-year-old children. I mean like 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7-year-old children, because those children act very differently. Now, if the puppy has the ability to be in a home with like toddlers and stuff like that, fantastic, because toddlers scream and cry and walk funny and do this kind of stuff with their hands. I don't know why they do that. I know why dogs do things, but I don't know why kids do things. But those kind of behaviors tend to spook a dog when the dog doesn't know what it is. So the more the dog is around kids and hears the yelling and the screaming and the crying and the this and the that, the better the dog is able to handle that in its later years or in its early years. If a dog doesn't get exposed to that, it's critical that you do. I used to take Goofy to the dog park when he was a young puppy, and it was great for him. He loved it because he got to see the kids playing, and I would just be giving him treats, and kids could come over and pet him really quick. And it got him where he's fine with kids. He's got no problem with kids, because also the breeder that I got him from socialized him with kids. And that's really, really critical. And what's really critical about it is that the kids who are socialized with this dog, that they are good with dogs, right? Or good with puppies. Because if they grab the puppy and drop the puppy and do something with the puppy that's negative for the puppy, then the puppy's not going to have a good time. The puppy's not going to like those people. And then you're going to have a problem with that dog as it grows up, because now it's got a negative experience with, there's Goofy, with children. Okay, Goofy, this is a podcast. And, okay, Goofy, it's a podcast. Okay. And you don't want them. Okay, Goofy, come on, you gotta go off, my God, come on, off you go, good boy, off you, I know, just lie down right there. He's the best. So when you first bring your puppy home, there's some important things to do. And the main thing to look at is how is your home set up? Is your home ready for it? And so before you bring the puppy home, get some basic things. First of all, you're going to need a crate. You're going to need some, a pad for the crate if you want to put a pad in there. Not a big deal if you don't. Some puppies chew the crate, and if they do, the pads, and if they do, then you don't want to put the pad in there because it's going to be a disaster. You're going to want to get good food for the dog. You're going to want to get, and all these things that you want to get. Go to my website, robertcabral.com. Click on my store, and I have a list to every single thing you could possibly think about for the dog. It's there. You don't need to email me and ask me what kind of treats do I want. It's on my store. And it's all products that I use or that I have used. So it's only things I believe in. You're going to need things like, a collar or a harness for the dog. Make sure it's either a martingale or a harness early on. You don't want to put a choke chain on a young puppy. Have some treats. Have a leash. Have a long line. Have some chew toys, some Kong toys, some all these different things. I like to give puppies filtered water. I know I'm kind of a little bit picky about that, but I think it's important. I like to give them really good quality food. Really important. Good nutrition is super, super important. And make sure your house is kind of set up. So, sometimes I say if you have 2 floors, you might get 2 crates, one for upstairs, one for downstairs, or else you're going to be schlepping the crates up and down at night. I like puppies sleeping in crates. I think crate training is the most important thing we do for our dogs. Not something we do to them, it's something we do for them because we want them to survive and learn to survive when we're not right there. If you have a baby, you put it in a bassinet. You got a puppy, you're going to put it in a crate. That's just the way it's going to work. But think about those things you're going to need. And like I said, the key elements are going to be obviously dog food or puppy food. You're going to need a crate. You're going to need a collar or a harness for the beginning. You're going to need a leash to walk the dog and get the dog socialized. You're going to need to get some basic like a pad or something for the crate. And I said maybe get 2 crates. Food is super important. Treats are going to be important, anything, and always get stuff that's good for the dog. Remember, it's a young puppy. What you feed a young puppy is going to be more of a repercussion as they get older. I like to feed puppies lots of different meats and proteins so that they can kind of grow into it. Some people put supplements in. If you're feeding your dog a regular dog food, sometimes you can over supplement by doing that, by adding supplements to it. So you're going to have to make a huge decision, right? And that is pee pads or crating. And if you're going to teach your dog how to go on pee pads, you're going to have a problem because the dog is going to go on carpeting. It's going to go on, linoleum floors. It's going to have mistakes. No matter what, your puppy is going to make mistakes, right? Your puppy's going to have an accident in the house. Not a big deal. Don't rub their nose in it. Don't do anything like that. If the puppy does start to pee or poo on the floor, what you want to do is take a newspaper, roll it up very, very tightly. Really tightly, and hold it really tightly, and then bash yourself in the head with it because it's your fault, right? When a puppy pees in the house or poops in the house, it's your fault. You made the mistake. You're going to need to take that newspaper, and like I said, you want to roll it up really tight to have better impact and bash yourself in the face with it because you didn't watch your puppy, right? So a puppy goes from the crate to outside. We don't talk to it. We don't play with it. We don't do anything. We take the puppy from the crate, put a little leash on it, walk it out the door, and let it go potty. After it potties, we throw a party. We just have the greatest time. We yeah, good boy, good girl, and we pet him and play with him, give him some treats or whatever, so that the dog understands that's what we wanted the dog to do. If you do it beforehand, the dog keeps trying to play and play and play and play. If you set these things up sloppily, like if you have a really problematic dog that won't pee or pees in the crate, chances are you failed on the crate training. And I've got videos on my member section as well as on YouTube on how to properly crate train a dog. It's not hard to do. It does take consistency. And that consistency is what wins in the long run when it's time for you to, leave your dog eventually. Because you need to, at some point, leave your dog. You can't leave the dog crated his whole life. So at some point, you're going to need to leave this dog in a crate. You need to leave this dog in a house. And the dog is going to need to know how to go outside, whether you got a doggy door, you leave a door open, or the dog has to hold its pee. Like if you live in New York or something, then the dog has to hold its pee until you get back to let it out. So you want to really start puppy training, crate training really, really early. You want the dog to understand that it's going to get out. It's going to get a chance to relieve itself. And it will then hold its poo or pee until you got to let it out. So crate training is the best way to go. I don't advocate any other training. Crate training teaches the dog also structure, because when puppies are young, people say, well, if you put the dog in a crate, it's going to be more apt to want to go chew things when it gets out. Wrong. So when a dog is out, it starts to examine things and look at things and find something. It starts chewing on it, and then you catch it and you go, hey, don't do that. Dog gets excitement out of you, right? And that excitement then leads the dog to want to do it again. If the dog never gets to chew on things and learns to settle, because puppies chew much more than adult dogs if they've been properly trained. I can leave Goofy out in my house or my friend's house if I'm over a friend's house without any issues. I know he's not going to chew anything. He's not going to hurt himself chewing an electrical cord or eating a pair of sneakers or something like that. It's just not going to happen. That's because he was properly crate trained and was taught the way I want him to learn. And that's what you need to do with your dog. Please use crate training not only for potty training, but for housebreaking, so the dog understands that he can't just go, willy-nilly and chewing on stuff and destroying stuff. If you don't do that, you're really setting your dog up for a huge failure, and you're going to have problems later on. I'm not telling you this to be mean to your dog. I'm telling you this because this is going to afford your dog the most freedom possible. And people say, I never crated my dog and my dog's fine. And I think that's fantastic, right? It's like the lady who says, my dog doesn't bite, but she lets it run up to any other dog. That's stupid. You're responsible for the behaviors of your dog later on. And if it turns out great by not crating the dog, that's fine. But, in the old days, nobody crated the dog, but there was also always somebody around watching the dog, and the dog was outside a lot more. So nowadays, the dogs are inside more. We love our dogs more. We give our dogs more freedom and give them a little more extra cuddles, which is great. But you've got to use a crate to kind of start to form those behaviors. Remember, you take a baby home, you put it in a bassinet. You don't just let it crawl around the floor when you're in the kitchen, or in the bathroom. The kid isn't just crawling around the floor. The child goes in a bassinet. So do the same thing with your dog, or I think it's a crib, right? I'm not sure. I've got to check with Janet all these terms. I usually should run stuff like that by her, but I don't. Train your puppy right away. So in other words, I'm not saying, you put a leash on, yank him, sit down, calm, and all this stuff. That's not part of training. Early training is just some hand feeding with the dog, some luring the dog into positions. Shaping behaviors are really important. Teach the dog the biomechanics of a stand, a down, a sit, the biomechanics of a come, and all those things. And it makes the dog a really better dog to teach later on. You can start training the dog at 8 weeks, by the way, but you don't want to take the dog first thing in the house and have a collar on and yell, sit, down, da-da-da, and all that. You want to acclimate the dog to doing things by following the lure of the food. And then that will make the dog a really happy dog, and it'll make the dog very apt to learn. And it'll make the dog a much better dog when it comes to doing obedience things, because the biomechanics, the basic muscle memory is being formed just by playing these games with the dog. The consideration, if you have another dog in your home, is immense, right? It's critical if you have another dog in your home to take considerations. In other words, don't have a dog at home and bring a puppy home and think it's all going to work out. And it might, right? Some dogs are really great with puppies. They've got no problem with it. Other dogs will kill a puppy. It doesn't mean they're a bad dog unless you let them do this, right? So if you have another dog, the best thing, in the same way we did it when we brought the Duanamator home, we had Goofy and Maya and Bozman, and we had Jimmy. But Duanamator came home, and he got a lot of love from us. He got a lot of attention, and then he went in a crate. And until Maya and Goofy and Jimmy and Boz could all understand that there's a new dude in the house, we just kind of kept him in the crate. We would take him out supervised. We'd hold him. We'd put him on the grass, and I slowly introduced Goofy and Maya to him. And Jimmy was obviously really good. Jimmy was kind of freaked out at first, didn't know what it was. It was like a blonde version of him. He ended up, they're best friends. And all the dogs, Goofy and Duanamator are the best of friends. They love each other. They play nonstop. Maya loves Duanamator, but kind of ignores him. That's just what females do. And you'll see that by structuring that interaction, right? Having your puppy in a crate, he comes out for a little bit of time. And remember, your current dog always comes first, not the puppy. The puppy doesn't get first attention, first love, first anything. Your dog does. The puppy sees that, learns their place in the pack. Your dog sees that and learns to accept this new dog because nothing's changing for him. He's just getting the benefit of an added friend. He's not losing your affection or your attention or your praise or your adoration or anything like that. Be really important. It's really important that you be focused on how you bring this puppy in. Puppy's at the bottom of the totem pole. If you have 2 dogs, puppy goes 3rd. 4 dogs, puppy goes 5th. You've got to look at it down the line. So if you have 1 other dog, the interaction should be, when I brought Goofy home and I had Silly, my Shar-Pei back then, Silly came first. Silly slept on the bed, Goofy slept in the crate. Silly got fed first, Goofy got fed second. Silly got attention, hello, even just a basic hello first, treats first, everything first, then Goofy. And now Goofy gets everything first, and the puppies get everything second. So structure that properly, because you don't want to, and don't do this with coronavirus. Now you can't touch your face anymore. I'm not going to talk about the coronavirus because I know nothing about it, but I'm just saying be kind of careful. This gives you a lot more time to watch these podcasts and listen to them now that you're kind of going to be confined to your home. So I hope you're enjoying it. And like I said, again, go to my member section. There's so many videos up there. By the time this ban is lifted, you guys can have your dogs almost perfectly trained. Best investment you'll make. So like I said, if you have other dogs, I've got little notes here because I really want to cover this very, very, very thoroughly so that you understand that. Also, some people have cats and birds and hamsters and guinea pigs and possums. I don't know what you have for pets, but you have other pets. Slow, structured introductions, right? People have emailed me and said, well, I have chickens and my dog's trying to kill my chickens. Well, he doesn't know what chickens are. He thinks chickens are lunch. And if he goes after your chicken, that's your fault, right? In the wild, a dog has a carte blanche to eat chickens if they're in his face or even anywhere, right? That's what they do. Rabbits, same thing. They're just going to eat them. A dog is a predator, and he's going to eat prey. So if you don't want him to eat prey, and I can show you guys a picture of Goofy and Silly, my Shar-Pei, with my bird, my parrot that I had. Nobody touched my bird. I showed that this was my bird. I love the bird. The puppy was fine with him. The dogs were fine with him. Everybody's been fine with my bird. So it's not an issue. You need to kind of structure that. Crate training is a great way to do that. But if you have one of these other animals in your home, you need to structure it, right? You need to make sure that you take the responsibility to have your dog in a crate, let your dog see these things over and over and over. The repeated experience, the repeated exposure to those stimuli, to the cat or whatever it is, or the bird, gives the dog the mental capacity to be able to deal with it without flipping out. And if you don't do it that way, you got a problem. So expose any of those things. And, if it's a little hamster, it's a lot harder, right? Because it just triggers this dog's prey drive. And if you got pets like this, really think about what kind of dog you're bringing home. Like, don't bring home a super high drive dog or a terrier. If you have little dogs, I don't recommend any kind of terriers. And I'm not just saying pit bull terriers. I'm saying Airedales, rat terriers, or anything like that, because notoriously they will be more aggressive to other animals than other breeds, like Labradors or something like that. I talked about the first things to train because I think the first things to train with the dog are obviously going to be just exposure. You being around the dog. Being handled is huge, right? Getting the dog to be touched and palpated, and your fingers in their mouth, and your fingers in their ears, and your fingers on their paws and underneath their bodies and on their shoulders. All those things are critical. That's the number one thing you want to do. The number one training for your puppy is exposure, right? It's socialization and exposure. And when you first have a puppy, I will say this, before it has its at least second or third series of shots, you don't want to take the dog in public because parvo and distemper are rampant, right? You're not going to give the dog a rabies vaccine until it's at least 6 months old, and the dog's not going to get rabies unless it gets bit by a bat. But you will have a very high chance of the dog getting distemper and parvo, and when they do, it's usually a death sentence. And if it's not a death sentence, it can lead to serious neurological damage in the dog later on. So, socializing your dog, you can take it to places that are friendly. Don't put a service dog vest on your dog. Just take your dog to places that are dog friendly. Put the dog in your car, lift the dog into your car, and take the dog out. Avoid areas of organic matter, grass, dirt, anything like that, gravel. You want to get the dog on, like if the dog has to pee, let the dog pee on concrete. Let the dog pee on asphalt or wherever. But don't let the dog sniff in grass because that's how it's transmitted through sniffing, and then you're going to have a problem with this dog. There's also other toxins the dog can get into. So protect your puppy fervently. Just be very, very, very serious about it. But, taking your dog to your friend's house. Remember, if you take your dog to your friend's house, Parvo and distemper can live in the soil for up to 6 months. So don't let them go potty on grass. Be really careful about that. You might be lucky. I've heard people who, have not had issues. They took their young puppies out, at 8 weeks and walked them around the neighborhood, no issues. And I think it's great. If that's great, if that works, that's fantastic. But you don't know if there was a dog there 6 months ago that had Parvo or distemper, and if they did, it can be a death sentence for your dog. So I don't like to do that. And then you can start, like I said, you can lure these basic movements like sit down, stand, come, and all those. I've got tons of videos like that on the website and on YouTube that you can check. This is really here just like a lecture, like a talking to you face to face to understand what you got to know before you get the dog. Feeding your puppy is important. There's lots of great quality dog foods. Don't fall for the hype of, I got to just do raw, or I got to just do kibble, or I have to just do no grains, I have to do this, I have to do that. Do your research on food. What you feed your puppy is what comes out, right? And I don't mean at the other end, but I mean how your dog grows up. You want a very, very, very good quality food. A lot of the cheaper foods can have phenobarbital in them from euthanized dogs. They've done studies on it. They've shown it. A lot of them will have roadkill in them. They'll have, and I don't mind if they have like chicken meal where they grind up the feet and the beaks and the feathers and stuff like that. That's still nutrition. A dog will still eat that. Like in other words, if I give my dog a chicken foot, it's going to eat it. If I give my dog a chicken head, it's going to eat it. That's not the issue. The issue is the byproducts and the fillers that go in. That's what's not usually nutritionally sound for the dog, and that's what you want to try to avoid. Now, there's people who have told me, well, I raised my dog on Alpa or Old Roy or whatever, and the dog does great, and that's fine. If that happens, I think that's great, but you want to kind of hedge your bets. On some of the cheaper foods, some of the lower quality foods, you want to watch and also keep an eye out for dog foods that are being recalled, because that's what you want to keep away from your dog, and you'll start to see patterns on those. Sometimes it's the boutique food, sometimes it's the frozen raw food, sometimes it's whatever. Go for a good quality food, and I think almost every pet food company has had a recall. You just kind of want to look at how they handle it, what the recall was for, and such. Vaccinations are a really tricky thing. I am not a veterinarian. I don't even play one on YouTube. I am a dog owner, a dog trainer, and a behavior specialist. So when it comes to vaccinations, you're going to need to defer to your vet. You can look at Dr. Gene Dodd's vaccine protocol. I think it's a really pretty thorough thing to do. It's what I follow. I try to give my dog not over vaccinate them, but I do vaccinate. I don't believe in the whole anti-vaccine thing. I think vaccines have saved millions and millions of lives. And the loss of vaccines have cost millions and millions of lives. If you think about polio, think about any of these things. I don't think anybody's making vaccines. I'm not going to do a talk on vaccines, but I don't think anybody's making vaccines to hurt your dog. I think they want to preserve the life of the dog and make it better. So like a rabies vaccine, again, I don't think you need to give them as often as they're prescribed, but you can go talk to your vet. You can do what's called titer testing. And titer testing allows you to pull titers and see where your dog is. If the dog still has the antibody for the vaccine, you may not need to give it again. But that's a question and a dialogue you should have with your vet. Give a call to them, talk about it on the first visit, and just ask them what their position is on vaccines. And I think you get some really, really great answers. The socializing and experiences your dog has early on, again, is what makes the dog. The more times you can feed your dog in different locations, in a car, at a mall, in a Home Depot, in a parking lot, at your home, obviously, on grass once it gets its vaccines, on concrete, on a table, it's going to build a better dog. These are all little things. At some point, I'll do a complete puppy series that will cover all these things. But for now, I can tell you that all these different things are important. And I do like to give puppies different types of protein, chicken, beef, game. And it gets the dog used to these different proteins. So like with my dogs, I can feed them anything from beef to chicken to fish to game, and they'll digest it well because they've had it. They've had the experience early on. And yeah, they may get the runs once or twice. Keep plenty of pumpkin on hand. If they get the runs, you're gonna fix it with that, and get the dog these different experiences, especially with different people handling the dog through these early times, because that's what's going to make your dog experience much, much, much better than just kind of shocking them with it later on. So the last thing, and the thing I want to kind of close on in this podcast, is critical. And that is puppies don't bite, right? Unless you've got the one most dangerous, aggressive, worst puppy in the world, puppies don't bite. Puppies mouth. So when children are always whenever I've had a child in my hand, they always grab at your face and claw at you. And I don't say the child is being aggressive. I say the child is being a child, because that's how children communicate with their hands. That didn't look right, but I'm not going to say anything. That's if you're watching the video. If you are just on the audio podcast, you didn't see what I just did. You have to watch the video on YouTube. Puppies communicate with their mouth. So because they're used to being on their mom's nipple and they're used to like playing with the other puppies with their mouth, that's how they communicate. So they're going to bite your hands, they're going to bite your pant leg because they want you to get close. And if you hold them up to your face, they're going to bite your face. So don't hold puppies up to your face. And puppies will tend to communicate with their hands, especially during teething time, which happens at about that 16-week window, that 4-month window, so 2 months after you get them. The puppy will really be teething, and you'll find little teeth around, or they'll swallow them, or you'll see them dangling out of their mouth, and you can pull them out and stuff like that. You want to make sure that the dog doesn't get in the habit that this biting is an engagement game. And that's usually what happens a lot of times. I always recommend to women who are a little bit more sensitive about getting bit on their hands to get a pair of gardening gloves when you're working with your dog, because it's going to protect your hands and you're not going to ruin your manicure and stuff. If you want the dog to be a good dog, if the dog starts grabbing your hands or your legs or your pant leg or your sleeves, just take the dog. You can grab him by the scruff of the neck, pull him away from it, put him in the crate, give him something to chew on. Give him a Kong with some almond butter in it. Give him a bone to chew on. Give him something that's going to satiate that desire to chew without it being your hands. Puppies need lots of times out. So if they're out and they're getting restless, especially around the witching hour just before sunset, they're going to start running around and barking and spinning in circles, and they're going to mouth you. When you're hand feeding, they're going to mouth you. You can teach the dog, an easy command to not bite. Again, I've got videos on that too. But do not, please. I've got a list of questions from people who are asking, oh, my puppy's aggressive. Your puppy, I promise you, your puppy's not aggressive. Your puppy will outgrow that behavior as long as you don't make a big deal out of it. If you make a huge deal out of it and scream at the puppy and yell at the puppy and try to be aversive to the puppy, then the puppy will continue that behavior, because that's how we form that behavior. We make a big deal out of it when the puppy does it. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just let the puppy, if the puppy starts biting, take your hand away, give the puppy something else. Don't make a big deal out of it. Put the puppy in the crate, bring the puppy back out. If he keeps doing it, he's just being mouthy. The puppy needs something to do. Puppy needs to go on a walk, needs to play, maybe you need to give the dog something to chew on so that you can engage him with something else. But puppies don't bite. I should title this podcast, Puppies Don't Bite, because in fact, I think I will title the podcast that. Puppies don't bite. Puppies don't bite. They don't. They just don't bite. So I hope this helps you guys to kind of get a little bit of a head start on what you should expect for your puppy, what you can do with your puppy, and how you can raise your puppy to be the best dog possible. I've done it several times with my dogs. I've helped countless people do it with their dogs. If you just hold to it, you just stick to it, you're going to do it, and you're going to love your dog. You're going to love your dog and enjoy that puppy time, because before too long they grow up, and before too long they're gone. And I hope that you guys understand what I'm saying here, because a dog's lives are too short. Enjoy every day with them. They're the most amazing creatures that God put on this earth to keep us company, to keep us happy, and to pull us through this life, which can be tough sometimes. So enjoy your puppies. Again, follow me on social media. Check out my membership section, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Thanks.